is like, is that in some sort of a way better because maybe they'll see like, dang, these guys are not giving up and they keep coming out. So should
Yeah.
we keep staying on
So
it?
that's actually a very good question. Yeah, our team believes that yes, we should continue to be out there, because with the way government works and all kinds of other stuff, if they don't perceive a problem, they don't have any reason to continue action, right? So if all of a sudden the problem is gone, they're going to think the problem's gone. So our feeling is we do need to keep pressure on them by continuing to be out there, continuing to use the property. I wouldn't say so much building or cutting or making new trails, but continuing to be out there. And that was part of the reasoning for us putting together a WhatsApp to help people identify when and where there are rangers or wardens. And that was kind of my idea behind putting up the field of vision map. So if there's a warden at the pad, what can he see, right? So he actually, you'd think he can see a lot, but he really can't see as much as you would think. So yes, we want to keep, we believe people should still stay out there using the property.
And then would it be good to like make markers out there to like sort of slap them in the face, like a marker that's like for those huge ravines that are cut in by water, and just put like danger, waiting for CDC or waiting for whoever to fix this?
No, not really on those. I understand what you're saying. That is something that we are kind of discussing with them as far as, getting some maintenance done. We are still pushing to try and do some maintenance on stuff. One of the arguments is, and they actually showed some photos in a presentation to us of a lot of those big ravines of erosion caused by mountain bikers. And I flat out called them out and said that is misleading, because that stuff is not caused by mountain bikers. That is just from half of those were existing roads before riders were out there. So it's right now it is, better. If we go out and do stuff and somebody gets caught or noticed, that can actually incur much heavier fines than just getting caught riding.
Yeah.
The fine for riding is like $250 if they go to court, if it goes anywhere, all that. My personal opinion is I'm not planning to stop if I see a warden. I'm just going to turn the other direction and keep riding. Because and this is my personal opinion, I really don't think they're going to tackle, tase, or shoot anybody.
Yeah.
So if you see a warden out there, it's best just to turn and ride a different direction. But again, that's personal opinion. Most everybody's adults here. You can deal with that however you would like to. There are a lot of things we can provide people information. I honestly don't think a ticket would really stand up if you really went to court for it, because there's a lot of contradictory things going on out there. There's technically the way the rules are written is, yes, bicycling is not legal on the property. However, what is legal is hiking, running, whatever, on the authorized trail system. And currently there's only one trail that's authorized on that property. And it goes east-west, and I'll show that on the map when we open the map up. So like all the hikers on the volcano, they're all illegal. All the dog walk, anybody at the pad on any mode of transportation is technically illegal, but they're not enforcing any of that stuff. So,
and then if we do see the maintenance dudes out there working like at the helicopter pad, like they were a few weeks ago, should we just like sort of let them know that there are those huge ruts and that they should focus on that stuff?
I would just not even engage them, because those guys are actually more, I'd say, belligerent than the wardens are, because they're the ones that feel that it's their property to manage and maintain. So they're actually going to yell at you, tell you you're not supposed to be there. They don't even want to hear anything from somebody on a bike. They're looking at it as you're in the wrong, they're in the right. So those guys, I wouldn't even bother engaging those guys.
right.
Just, carry on your merry way. Ride past them.
Cool.
Any other questions? Anybody else? Any other questions right now?
I got to this meeting late, so I apologize if it's a redundant question, but
That's all right.
I know they're building a mountain bike park in Carlsbad. There's plans for it. How does that
Yes.
affect Calavera?
So that is technically that's a city project, as opposed to a CDFW project. Some people think that it will help eliminate usage or take over the need for trails at Calavera. Ultimately, yeah, it'll probably take some load off of Calavera for some usage, but that's, the bike park's not going to fix what, a lot of people want to go out and do a long, cross country ride, 12, 15 miles or whatever. Other people want to, go do what used to be the jump line or whatever on natural trails. The bike park's going to be all built stuff, right? So it'll definitely take some load off. Some of maybe the kids that are looking to do the jump lines and stuff, that might be a better place for them. But as far as, officially doing anything, not really. Some people, and in addition, that's probably still a couple years out as well. It's approved, but they gotta, they still gotta finalize the plans. They got to find the funding. At the best, I think that's at least 2 years out from what we've heard.
Thanks.
Sure, you're welcome. And we think that's a great project for sure. So that is good, and that will, take some load off, but it doesn't serve the full need, Anybody else? Any other questions? Oh, hey, Dan.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, just wanted to thank you for hanging in there and continuing to struggle with them. For my part, I just am I'm going to keep riding, try to avoid them. If I do run into some of them, my plan is be polite, be nice, plead ignorance.
Yep.
And if I can get into a discussion about the need for trails as well as protecting nature, I will.
Right.
Yeah. Keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So on that note, as far as like some trails and stuff and nature, that is one of the things. This property really was established in the plans to protect the environment, protect nature and all that. So, it's been a fight. They're on the hard line of the rule is bikes aren't allowed. And so we have to police against that. However, and they also talk about precedent. Every conversation we have with them, they say we can't set the wrong precedent. We can't precedent. But one of the things that we're going to push back on them is that every day they are setting their own precedent, and it is a bad precedent, which is, as I mentioned, per their own, I'll have to find it here. I'm gonna go off screen for you guys and find another map here that I'll post at some point. They, of their own maps, they have, see if I can find that. That's not the right one. They have admitted that there are technically no trails on this property that are legal except for one trail. I'm trying to find that map if I can. No, not there. But I'll find that here eventually. But there's basically one trail that goes east to west across the property. That's basically the one authorized trail. So the volcano's off limits, basically everything's off limits, and they're not doing their duty to police it for hikers, bird watchers, dog walkers, all that, because they're also technically illegal per the rules. They also have cut trails of their own, bladed some roads during gnatcatcher breeding season without proper environmental studies, because they're supposed to do environmental studies, stuff like that. But we did, additionally, as part of our project, we're trying to broker peace with the biggest opponent for bikes, which is the Preserve Calavera group. They've been historically the loudest mouth yelling about the problem out there and getting CDFW's attention. Kristen actually did a walk with with Diane Nygaard, who's the leader of that group today. And Diane actually likes our idea of a pilot program to establish a trail system, close some trails, manage other trails, rehab, that kind of stuff. And we're thinking about trying to do a collaborative mini project, if we can get CDFW to agree to that, of just let's shut down one trail and manage that, clean it up, kind of rehab one section, and see if it can work. So, building that relationship with the Preserve Calavera team is huge. Before it was just, butting heads, right? It was literally with the other organizations previously involved, the word was from Diane Nygaard, as long as they are involved, we will continue to fight this. So we're getting past that, hopefully, knock on wood. We have heard that she'll kind of bring things to almost the conclusion, and then she'll go back all the way to the very beginning. So hopefully that doesn't occur, but we're trying to work down those lanes. So any other questions while I search for this map, this map that I'm looking for here? Anybody else? Any other questions? There it is. There it is.
I have a question, actually. Do these same issues relate to, I believe it's the southern side of Calavera, where you started going into farmland?
Yeah, so good question. So that southern section, that, and you'll see, because I'll pull up a map here that really has good boundaries here in a second. There it is. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Share screen. Let's just do this one for now. Okay, so you guys can see that? So Yeah, so this southern boundary down here, this is all technically private land. And so that does incur a slightly different set of rules, because it's private property. So technically, again, that does have potential trespassing, whatever, but those are private things. So the property owner would have to come out and deal with that enforcement versus the wardens or rangers that are out there. So yes, but it's different. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yep.
So, per CDFW, the only authorized trails are and I didn't quite realize this. I had this section over here on Skyline, I think it is the actual, it's the paved road and then the dirt trail. So technically a section of that, or at least according to this map, they're claiming is their property and is authorized, which technically, so you theoretically couldn't even ride a bike across that realistically, if they were to try to enforce that. The only authorized trails are that section there, and then this one that goes east-west, little offshoot here, and then the pipeline on the eastern border. Everything else is unauthorized, even for hikers. So they're not enforcing per their own rules. This was I only wanted to show this just for these authorized trails. This was something, I don't know who or when they proposed this, but this was something they had put together back in 2016 as some proposed trails. I'm not sure who that discussion was with. I don't know if it was just internal or if it was with the city, or I'm not sure. They didn't tell us who that was proposed amongst. This is not what we're looking at. I'll go to that slide here in a moment. But are there any other questions on that or anything else before I move on to the map that we have?
Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe just a clarification on the question about what people call the South 40. So
Sure.
that private property and CDFW has nothing to do with it.
Correct.
Although to get there, you have to skirt their property.
Correct.
And that's part of a development for the city of Carlsbad. It's called, you can look it up and check, it's Cantarini and Holly Springs.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been going anywhere for a while, but eventually that will be developed. But right now, there's only a couple of no trespassing signs on a few fences, but as long as you don't disturb the fields or the farm worker buildings, I think everything's fine out there.
Yeah, I would probably tend to agree with that as well, is that most people don't seem to care about that. The landowner's not really doing much about it. There's people ride their horses out there and they are actively farming, a big portion of it, but not, the sections where most people are riding.
And the horse riders are friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. And any other questions before we go on to the next map that I was planning to show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was that a question, Fred, or no? No? Okay. So one of the things, I was hoping we have a few more people, but I know it's, we pushed this out a few different ways, but I think we've got a good sampling. And over the past 2 years, we've talked to a lot of people already. So we've put a couple maps together of what we think would be a good proposed trail system. based on what was getting used, what were like duplicate trails, that kind of stuff. So let me go and share that screen with you guys. This one. So this is a map. I don't have the boundaries on here, but you can kind of generally see where the boundaries are. We kind of have stuff color coded. Legal city trails are the green, the private property trails. And I know there's actually more since I put this map together, is the orange down here at the bottom. And then blues and yellows and reds are all on the CDFW property. We kind of went through and looked at a lot of stuff. As we go through and we look at mapping, I put out these blue lines, as for discussion with CDFW, because, all of these are what I consider existing roads that were there years and years ago. And if I were to pull up their other map, actually that matches pretty closely to their map, as far as all these blue lines are the actual roads that were out there, or double track stuff. So I pulled those out from the equation of trails, because those are access roads that were there. They may not have maintained them anymore, but pulled those out from the roads. Yellow, just for most everything we have on here, we're establishing theoretically as multi-purpose, and then like one bike trail and one hiking trail, just to kind of give a little bit of separation there. But we're not, that's not really, getting kept to any real standards. But, as far as trails here, so what we've got right here is basically the pads right here. I don't know if you guys can you see my cursor here or not?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. So the pad is right about here. The light blue line is basically the flow trail or sesame that, a lot of people call. So that's that blue trail. So of course that's one of the most popular trails. So we're proposing to keep that for sure. Some of these little offshoots and loops and things. This one here is, I think this is what was considered revival, and that's the one that CDFW was just working on the other day. And that's a pretty new trail, and it really does. This whole section right here is pretty heavy gnatcatcher habitat. So we're kind of proposing shutting that stuff down there. This is the other what used to be the old climbing trail that people would come up. Coming down over this way, you've got a whole bunch of trails, right? So there's the center one. I can't keep track of what each trail is called, but this is the one that kind of comes down. This one's fairly new here. Comes down kind of to the middle of the next landing down below. This one, I know this one here is what used to be called Sports Authority. I know other people, this is the refrigerator trail, that there's the fridge like right here someplace. This is one of the links to Brown Angel right here. And then the other one coming down this way. They all kind of come down together here. And then this is what drops back down through the creek and loops back around. And then this is that climb that is pretty steep, that is pretty eroded out at this point, is right here. Come back through this way. Right here is the rock garden, and then there's a little bypass. I ride the rock garden every single time, so I kind of propose leaving it in there. you know, coming back down through here. You know, and like I said, there, you know, we're looking at trying to make a compromise to open up, you know, open up some space. So all the red is everything we're proposing closing. Yellow is open. I mean, these are a lot of the heaviest used trails are the ones that we're keeping open. We kind of ignored the water tower on purpose because we were hoping that some stuff would skate through over there without getting attention, more than anything. So yeah, I know there's some trails over here at the water tower that we would like to keep, but we were just we were kind of hoping to leave stuff off and just sort of kind of get under the radar on the water tower section. Over here, you've got, I think this is called different things over here. This is the Prom Hill area. So you've got this one run that heads all the way down. I did kind of leave out the G out trail, because I know not everybody used that, and that's really hard to keep maintained, whereas the other trail that comes around would be maintainable. This is the switchbacks coming up, you know, and then the single track that comes back up to the base of the water tower. The volcano is just a mess right now, as everybody knows, you know, so our proposal was kind of keeping the main single track or the main double track that goes to the top, that one trail that kind of comes down the back, and the trail that kind of loops around the back side of it there, and then closing down a lot of the other stuff. And again, this is, you know, kind of concessions of, they think that all of the stuff on the volcano was made by mountain bikers, but 90% of it is hiking trails and used by hikers, especially all this stuff over here by the actual caldera. So this is what we were, you know, kind of looking at. Let me switch over to a map that basically gets rid of all of the closure stuff. I'll switch over to that screen. Stop my share for a second. So this is a cleaner map. You know, as far as what we are really proposing to CDFW, and you can see this has the boundaries on here, and you can see that over here there's some stuff that's not on their property, but it zigzags back and forth. So we kind of need to look at that as a, you know, one piece. Same with this trail kind of starts off their property and ends up on their property. Same here, another trail, this kind of starts and ends off their property. If you notice, this is the eucalyptus down here, and technically, if you were to start riding in from the end of the road here and ride around the eucalyptus, you're not on their property. And I know that somebody got a ticket over there, I think 2 years ago. You know, so whether that's valid or not, who knows? But you know, so technically, this angle is the border, which is like their sign. The big white sign is here, and yeah, they've got the other sign here. So it's, yeah, just so you know where it is. So that's what we're looking at. I want to get input because this is, like I said, we have this meeting in a couple weeks, and what the question is what kind of acreage is needed for a trail system. Unfortunately, this is basically the entire property, except the meadow, which is their stuff all, you know, here already. Some could say, you know, okay, if we ignore the volcano altogether, because there's already so many hiking trails and stuff up there. I don't know what they would do in regards to that. Like if we said we want, you know, this section over here for mountain biking trails, and we look at the acreage down here for a land swap, I don't know what they would do about all the other trails on the property outside of that, so that's a big question. They haven't answered that. They've kind of ignored that as far as, policing that stuff. I think they are figuring that they would block off a section, say that's for mountain biking, and then the rest is free game for hikers. I have a feeling that's what they would probably do. So I'm going to stop rambling at the moment and kind of get some ideas or input from you guys as far as what do you think about these maps? What do you, are we missing something? Are we trying to do too much? Are there trails that we shouldn't do for something, excuse me, something else? Or, what do you think?
Request as many trails as you can, because they're going to come back and cut it down.
Well, agreed. Right now, the land swap would actually be more of not an individual trails, but more of they would draw a line around the trail section and block and map it off. So basically
Give them the volcano for sure. Give them the volcano and we keep everything else.
basically draw a line from here to straight across.
Or just that top left section of blue, like where the N, where the knot and the FI ends, and then the F, like just give them all that. And they get the lake.
And the lake is city. The lake is city land, so that's out of the equation altogether.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the plan is good. It's just a matter of negotiating strategy, like if they're going to be reasonable, or if you have to hardball to get what we actually want.
Well, that's the problem right now. It's that we technically have no leg to stand on, unfortunately, other than showing the continued use. We are. I won't go into full details, but we are essentially building a case, not necessarily like a legal case or anything, but we're essentially building a legal argument, to bring a whole package together so that if this group doesn't work with us, we can escalate to the next level, hopefully, which the next level requires political influence to get there. On that note, we do have a couple of allies. Tasha Borner Havrath is a huge ally for us. She has helped broker some of these conversations. She's brought some experts to the discussion as well. We also have Oceanside City Council member Ryan Keim, who also is interested because he happens to live right over here in the area over right next to the property. So, he's got personal interest in that as well. So, through the two of them, they've helped, push, some of these discussions along, at least getting us to the table, because they could just completely ignore us and just continue enforcing, which they have said they're planning to do. But again, that's an area where we're hoping that Tasha is going to push back on them and kind of say that they shouldn't be spending that kind of money on enforcement. And then as far as the other, like I said, the other things is they're not enforcing all the rules. They're only enforcing certain rules. They're only enforcing against one user group. They claim to be enforcing against off-leash dogs. I don't think they've ever ticketed anybody. They've probably told somebody, put your dog back on leash, and that's about it.
From what city council though? Are we doing it from Carlsbad or Oceanside?
So he is from Oceanside. So again, technically, because this is in Carlsbad, but it's not Carlsbad property, it's state property. Carlsbad has basically been playing a not our property, not our problem. If We unfortunately don't have any good connections to anybody on the Carlsbad City Council, but it would certainly help. If anybody has any links or connections, the more local politicians that have interest in it, the better. One of the things that we were thinking about doing to and we may do this depending on how the meeting in a couple weeks goes to get some attention, is we try to put together a kind of a critical mass ride on. So Kristen does not like the idea of doing a large group ride on CDFW property because it is gnatcatcher breeding season and that many people can actually harm the habitat, which we are being sensitive of. If we did a large ride on the legal property and essentially overwhelm the trails, that would get a lot of people's attention. So again, this is not something we're planning at the moment, but thinking about as an action, depending on how discussions go in a couple weeks. Because at some point, if it doesn't start going the right way, the next escalation is, we have to start getting higher level attention on the issues.
So Matt, the
Yeah.
critical mass ride on the legal trails does seem like it might be effective, maybe at the risk of pissing off some hikers.
Well, that's partly the point, is to
Yeah.
piss off the hikers to get them to go talk to their city council reps
Sure.
and say, there's too many bicyclists on this property to gain that attention.
Yeah, that's tactic worked for skateboarders. Regarding the map,
Yes.
Couple comments. I
Sure.
think we might need to be prepared to concede some environmental critical areas. I mean, there's the gnatcatcher habitat, but I think all the preserve Calavera people and ostensibly CDFW, if they care, would really care about the stream beds. And
Yeah.
we've got that trail, that's crosses down and actually rides into the stream bed to
Right.
get over by the water tower. I think that one is probably a no-go from an environmental standpoint. And then down there on the boundary, where we have several trails that
Down
cross
here.
the stream, might want to give a couple of them up. And
Well, those technically don't cross the stream on CDFW property.
right. And it would be great if, I can't believe they took out the bridge that protected the riparian habitat and now forced everybody to, degrade the stream environment by riding their horses and their bikes through it.
They're right. And so, unfortunately that is, and I suppose one argument could be is that we can put a bridge back up, and then if it's taken down, then, we could go to the landowner, again, because this is technically not CDFW land down here.
Yeah.
So it is and that is a concern of the, our side, is that a lot of the stuff they're doing is lack of foresight. They're really not doing anything to help the habitat. They're doing stuff just to prevent mountain bikers, and try to limit. I mean, they are trying to limit trail use, but they're not doing it the right way. So that would be a good one. I know that I just saw down here, there is the section, this trail that kind of drops down from Brown Angel, that dropped down into the swampy part.
Yeah.
I did see that somebody cut a new trail straight, probably from right to turn straight over. So you don't drop down into the swamp anymore. You kind of stay a little bit higher from it. But you're right, even that crossing, so but that's the question, is like, okay, if we did that, the link, there's we would lose this whole section. So the link would be back. You'd have to come back up this way. There really is no, there is no way to get across from here, you know, over to this section, aside from coming all the way down and around this way.
Yes, well, a higher rerouting would be good, like you mentioned.
Right.
There is a little bit of one, and I think there used to be, somebody tried to put one even higher up that
Right.
peters out. But anyhow, just commenting that
But
we
that
need
is,
to be
yeah.
aware of their concerns in that regard.
to be honest, I have not yet heard them say anything about wetland habitat issues. They're concerned about the gnat catcher. They're concerned about the sage. They're concerned about, there's one flower, I forget what it's called now off the top of my head, that they're concerned about, which we have no idea where it is. It's California Brodea, I think.
The thorn mint or something like that.
Something like, yeah, Brodea. It's a California Brodea californica, I think, or something like that, which I've not yet found where the heck that is. There is, I was just informed 2 weeks ago that there is concern of a last April, I think it was.
Oh, that road.
Yeah, no, some biologist was out traipsing around the property looking for something. I forget what she was looking for. But she supposedly came across a grass that hasn't been seen, period, in over 130 years. It has never been seen north of the Mexican border, period. And the last time it was seen was 130 years ago in Baja, someplace. It was found someplace over in this area. There's not a lot of trails over there. CDFW hasn't mentioned that. They may not know about it because they may not be up on as much as we are. So that's something to be concerned about. But I mean, if we can make some inroads on stuff, that is something. If it truly is there, we would definitely want to protect that.
Sure, plants are, more easily protected by just not riding over them.
Right.
Whereas they've got the concerns with wildlife of,
Right.
It's a bigger concern with
Right.
wildlife.
And that grass is not really near any active trails. So I think it's of little concern really for us, but it is something that potentially could be a concern at some point.
You mentioned preserve Calavera.
Yes.
Have they seen any of these maps or commented on them yet?
We actually did show them some of these before COVID started. I have not talked to Diane in a while since COVID started. They kind of looked at it and it was, we were looking at an entire package. And so we may have to, we kind of expect that we would have to concede maybe a few of these trails, but we were trying to put together what we felt was reasonably as many trails as we would really want. There's like I showed you on that other screen.
Well, sure. And as commented already, you have to ask for a lot to end up getting something.
Right. So we wanted to show a reasonable amount of closure. What I calculated out that this was approximately 40% of of all the trails that I have marked. This was about 40% of the trails marked in mileage that we were proposing be closed. And we felt that was, a big concession to start with. knowing that we might lose one of these other trails in the middle to kind of open up a bigger area. Because one of the things that they're concerned about is breaking basically not just the individual trails, but the size of the habitat area for the animals. That's an unbroken zone, basically. So, you know, going back to this one, you know, we took out these little connector trails that were in here. There's one that goes in through here, one that goes in there. So we're reopening that. Basically that becomes, you know, open. I was going to then propose that maybe we take this out and we go back to this was the old climbing trail, right?
Sure.
So we get rid of that. And then if you notice, I did take out what is the new road that they graded a couple of years ago. Was the one that came from here up there. So, you know, and that's one that's controversial because they say we're concerned about the habitat, but they went and made a road without proper documentation. So that's one of the things is they're looking to open up larger expanses for the animals to be able to run around in, fly around in. So, you know, we opened up a lot more space in here compared to, you know, that one. Or, I mean, there's a lot more trails than this. Like if I was to show you the heat map of what everybody has shown, that's the big concern from a few years ago. And it's like almost this entire thing is covered, almost the entire water tower hills covered. You know, and it's not just bikes, it's hikers as well. So, you know, that's kind of the concerns there. So that's, like I said, our thought was this map here makes a pretty good usable trail system. It's got a lot of the stuff that everybody wants to have, and it succeeds a fair amount of stuff as well. And this puts it back to probably not all that long ago. I mean, it was probably 2008 where a lot of these trails showed up back in 2008, I think, or maybe a little bit after, some a little before, some a little after.
About right.
So anybody else, questions, concerns? Tell me to go fuck myself. I don't care.
Thank you.
No, thank you, man.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So one last question that I'll ask is, you know, say we do start going to look at doing some closures. You know, like I said, we get together with Preserve Calavera, we decide we want to do a closure. In your minds, how do you think we can get the general populace to understand and respect that our team is looking to do a closure? I mean, aside from, I think we need to put a sign up that has our logo, maybe Preserve Calavera's, because honestly, right now, if we put something up that just says trail closed, people are going to ignore it, right? They're going to think CDFW is trying to close it and just keep going. But as far as like, as our project goes, we want to show that we're being effective with trail closures. What do you think is gonna work there? I mean, aside from, you know, a signage that says closed per Calavera Trail Coalition, or, you know, and then just getting word out. Sorry, say it again.
Yeah, because people are gonna push back on it. It'd be like better, like a positive things, like build up one of the trails and get everybody focused on those, like one trail that's built up, and get everyone riding that trail. Because if you put a sign up, people are gonna there's gonna be resistance to that.
Right.
Well, I think the sign showing the map too, like, hey, this is what we've been able to find as a solution, and look at it in a positive light and get people to rally behind it.
That's good.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to precede any closure effort with a lot of social media communication, and maybe at the trails, get a group of people enlisted to talk to the people out there, because
Right.
so many trail users are just clueless about who manages the land and
Oh, I know.
the issues.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I've run into a number of people that I'm just still surprised that people don't know what's going on. And it's kind of surprising that, I run into people on not brand new bikes that are, and not really old crappy bikes either, like they dug it out of their garage and they haven't been riding forever. But decently used, average bikes, and that don't know what's going on. I'm kind of surprised, but I'm also not. It just kind of goes to show that whatever, CDFW is not doing a good job either. We're trying to get the word out. I'm almost out of business cards. Have to order some more pretty soon. So that's, yeah, I mean, and for you guys, yeah, if you can just, kind of spread the word. If you see anybody out there, just, kind of make sure they know what's going on, right? And direct them towards our social media platforms.
Yeah, I don't think there's much we can do other than that, right? Like a social
Not
media
really.
blitz. Anyone who cares are going to share it to their audience, which would hopefully capture a lot. And then on the ground with signage and some
Right.
grassroots, level with riders talking to their networks.
Right.
I don't know much more than that.
Yeah, I think that's my idea is, we're going to push that stuff. We need everybody's support, in the project, of course. Getting the word out, keeping, and I think the other thing is what CDFW has yet to acknowledge is we keep telling them that if we come to an agreement, because they don't think a pilot program is going to work, because every time they've supposedly tried something someplace else, people disregard it. But every program that they've tried to do is not a realistic one. Like they told us about a study, I forget where it was, but there was a road, dirt road, and a single track right next to it. And they tried to close the single track but allow bikes on the dirt road. And there was this, nice single track next to it. And they also said that the speed limit was 5 miles an hour. So their report was the highest number of violators was bicycles. And it was both the usage and the speed. And we just laughed at them because, that was a study set up for failure, because 5 miles an hour is that's climbing speed for most people. So that's unrealistic. And then having a nice single track next to a dirt road, nobody wants to just take a dirt road when there's a single track. So it was a study in failure. So we're trying to set up something that will be successful. And they keep saying that where they've tried to close trails doesn't work, because no matter what, bike riders are going to cut new trails and build new trails and whatever. And we keep trying to insist that if we actually establish a legal trail system, that's going to give the cyclists the ownership of it, and will, through peer pressure and great grassroots, are going to enforce the existing trail system, as long as the trail system that is agreed to and is acceptable by the user group. And that we've brought that up, and they just kind of, right now they're just ignoring it, because their idea is a land swap, which what that tells me is they don't want the problem. They want to just get rid of the problem altogether and not deal with it. That's what basically a land swap is. It's make the problem go away and no longer have to have it be their problem. make it somebody else's problem.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And if they give us something reasonable that's fun to ride, I think the community will rally. And I think the older generation can teach the younger guys to respect it as well. And that place will be cleaned up and better than it's ever been.
And that's what we're thinking as well. So I think I'm just gonna one more thing I'm gonna put out here that we have been thinking about. We've kind of just started getting a little feelers out a little bit. Right now we've been doing everything as just a group, right? Just an under, not really underground, but just sort of a community user group, right? We are thinking about we're not reestablishing, but actually putting together a formal organization and establishing as an IMBA chapter, so that we have access to the IMBA tools, we have access to true nonprofit status. Again, we're kind of thinking about this. Wouldn't necessarily be just for Calavera, would be more of a North County program where different groups or different locations could kind of come in under our umbrella. Part of the reason for that, for various reasons, I'm not sure what other people's relations with SDMBA is, but in North County, SDMBA has done a lot of damage in, with the conservation groups and the other access stuff. They've done good in some places, but as far as like trail access here, they're not doing a great job. And so it's not so much to oppose them, but to have an alternative to SDMBA, which in my mind, I look at, you look at other states and they don't have a single organization that covers an area the size of San Diego County. San Diego County is 3 times the size of Rhode Island. It's 2/3 the size of Connecticut, and they have different, there's different groups for different areas back there for much smaller areas of county, territory, whatever. You go other places and they have smaller groups, or they have a bigger group maybe that has individual ownerships of different properties, as opposed to one massive group trying to own everything, which I don't think is the right idea. So just wanted to put that out there as a, kind of get some thoughts or input of, if you think that could be successful, if you think that's useful. That's sort of a little side, it's not dependent on this and it's not independent of that. It is a tool that could be useful. It's a more work. I don't necessarily want to do it, but it might have to happen.
Cool. Something to think about for sure.
Yeah, it's more of, like I said, it's something that may have to happen, depending on where this project goes.
Solid.
So, all right, any other last inputs or questions or anything?
No, man, thank you so much for putting this together. That was really informative.
Cool. And by the way, I did record this. I started about, I don't know, 8-9 minutes late, but I did record it. So I'm gonna post it for people that weren't able to attend, so they can see what we're talking about. Because one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to be open about what we're discussing as far as what's happening, what's going on. Because we don't want all of a sudden, come out and say, here's what's happening, and people aren't aware of what's going on and they're all pissed off. So we're trying to be, open and honest with the process and what's going on.
Right on.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you. Share.